I heard it. That's good. It's a good sound. Hey, everybody in Facebook land, and hello, everybody here in the office. This class we're going to do tonight is actually one of our 3 core classes that we want to teach our new patients to give you the best chance to succeed at care. When I say succeed, what it means is whatever goals you've set for yourself in your care, and they're very personal. I know that most people come to us, they've already lost some degree of function, and typically they don't feel very good either, and it's actually now interfering with something they either want to do or have to do, right? So there's these things in life we kind of want to do. There's the things that are recreational things. Big adventures. There's one person who actually set as a goal for themselves, they wanted to be able to, well, this family wanted to go travel abroad, and they wanted to actually see where they had actually immigrated from in Germany. And the 3 sisters take really good care of themselves. One sister did not. And unfortunately, the one who did not take very good care of her health was not able to climb the stairs to see the top of the castles or cathedrals where there are no elevators, which is kind of a bummer when you travel through 7 time zones and you get there and realize you can't go see the very thing you wanted to. So whatever your goals you've set for yourself, I want to make sure we help you meet those. There's also the have-tos in life, right? There's things that we do for work, for whatever you have a sense of duty towards. And so I want to make sure that whatever you do, your health is there for you to get there. And what I'm going to show you is actually how to get there. There's some key things that when I show these to you, you're going to say, well, that's almost like so obvious, but you've actually only learned about it in other parts of your life. I'm going to show you how to get the most out of your care by applying those same principles to you. Okay? So I'm assuming when I start this class that you actually value good outcomes and performances. Nobody here wants to fail at anything, right? At least failure is sometimes the launch pad for success. But if you can at least reduce the number of times that you fall down flat on your face, that's a nice thing, right? Number 2 is that you'd like to see the benefits of great health. Great health is a good thing to pursue of its own. I mean, Justin, you shared with me actually how you've really turned things around in your own health in the past few years, which is fantastic. It's a great thing to just feel good on its own, but it's also what does it allow you to do, right? That's the thing that opens up so many doors for you. Number 3 is why you actually, you would like to know at least some of the why behind your care choices. For example, when we go through your care, some people think, well, how did you arrive at those care plans? How is that something you arrived at? You're going to see very quickly the research points to exactly what we do here. And then the last thing I put up on this list is you'd like to maximize your investments of time, energy, and money. That's the thing, guys, is we want to shorten the time and shorten the cost to get better where you want to go. If you could do it in half the time, wouldn't that be nice? Yeah, why would you want to drag that out? Okay, so these principles we're going to cover today, we'll do this. And so when you think of the rhythm of healing, do you guys remember when you were little kids, your parents would push you on a swing? Do you remember that? Okay, there was a rhythm to that, wasn't there, right? If your parents pushed you and you came back and they kind of caught you when you're coming back like this and they pushed that way, there's that nice smooth release and back and forth that's great. What if your parents rushed it and came up and actually caught you as you were coming down? It's like a thud, right? As opposed to like a nice little glide. And so the rhythm to healing is very important that we respect it. So first of all, we're going to talk about the time. All healing takes time, would you agree? Okay, I'm sorry this is such a small font. I wrote this up and this is going to become a PowerPoint at some point with far less writing on it. I'm kind of working through the things I want to make sure I include that. But all healing takes time. And there's things that happen in an instant and things that take longer. And so really anything does take time. To detonate an atomic bomb takes a fraction of a second. However, how long does it take to get through school? K through 12. Yeah, 8 hours a day for 13 years, right? It's a long time. It's based on the calendar. So good endeavors typically take time. To become a good athlete or to become a good artist or expert, there's a guy by the name of Malcolm Gladwell who's written a book. He says to become an expert at anything takes about 10,000 hours of investment, right? Pretty amazing. Yeah, so start right now if you want to be good at like the cross country or whatever. At our Turning Point, guys, we invest about 3 to 5 hours a week to train on how to serve you better. We actually do a weekly training. We listen to calls of other offices who are doing the same thing and share what works, and then we actually drill on it too. So we spend a good portion of our week, about 5 hours of our week, actually training to serve you better. Healing time for different tissues, different types of injuries takes time. You already have experiences. How long does it take to heal sunburn? Have you ever had a bad sunburn before? How long did it take, Anders?
A couple of weeks.
Yeah, especially a really bad one. You'll peel, you have the new skin coming through. You don't want people touching you for a while, right? Because it's healing. Anybody here ever broken a bone before? Okay. If you ever see a friend who ever broke an arm and had a cast on, you got to sign it and everything. How long do they have it on for typically? Do you know?
Wow.
Yeah, for sure. Like we're talking weeks for sure. Like 4 to 12 weeks. There you go. Exactly. The callus has to form. The bone has to come in and fill in. So you don't want that thing being moved around. And if you have the unfortunate thing of breaking your bone in the summer, you get to itch it down in the cast because it gets so hot in there, right? It's not real fun. Okay. If you have a common cold, how long does it take to get over that? About 2-3 days, maybe up to a week if it's really bad, right? And then you think of a situation like cancer, a person's never declared to actually be in formal remission until they've gone 5 years with no positive test. In chiropractic, guys, we know the body's always healing, but we have to give it the time that it needs to heal and the right conditions. The average adult that we see in our office who walks in, let's say they've done nothing to care for their body in the first half of their life, chiropractically. There's been no attention to their spine or their nervous system or their posture or anything like that. They've had a series of falls. I think they say the average American actually has about 4 auto accidents in their lifetime. So say at this point they've actually had a couple of them. They've actually felt the pain of it. They said, I must be fine because 2 days later I have no pain. They have no idea how their spines have changed. I tell them, and I'm just very upfront about it, that it does take about 6 to 12 months to fully correct and stabilize the spine. And that's before we get to wellness care. Now, if a child starts with wellness care, as we have actually 2 families that come to mind right now. Actually, there's been 3, I think, that have actually brought their kids to our office on the way home from the hospital. Like literally this first or second day of the kid's life, they want to say, would you please check our child for subluxation so they can start their lives with no nerve interference? And the force we use to adjust them, and Andrews is kind of like, wow, that's kind of weird, right? But they actually have shown that birth process, even a normal thing where the kid comes down to the birth canal and pushes through, there's a significant amount of force that goes to your upper neck. Okay, and so when we find those things, first of all, subluxations there will tend to retard a kid's immune system development, their ability to learn, and actually their motor skills too. If you can correct those things at an early stage, they do great. And the force that we use, think about, you guys ever gone to the store and see if a tomato's ripe or an avocado? That's not the level of force that we use. It's very light. But these kids change, they change beautifully. Okay? Yes, and so, for example, new body cells in your life, in your body, collagen has a half-life of approximately 3 to 6 months. Can you imagine that? That means it turns over that very, very slowly. The neck curve, when we're putting it in there, if we get a change of somewhere between, say, 10 to 15 degrees in your neck curve in the first 2 or 3 months, we feel really good about that, and you'll be able to see it right away on the film. Divided over the course of 24 or 36 visits, your body's only changing about 1/3 of a degree per visit. Can you imagine that? Now, have you had geometry yet, Anders?
In 6th grade.
Okay, you had it, some version, right? So you remember having a protractor that has 90 degrees? Do you remember how small those little increments of 1 degree were? Imagine dividing those by 1/3. That's how little your spine changes on a per visit basis. But add them up over the course of 2 or 3 months, and it's like, wow, you can really see that, right? A person who actually is losing weight and cuts their caloric intake by 500 calories less than they actually burned. So they're taking it, so they're actually burning their own body fat. They will lose about 1/4 of a pound a day. Do you think that really shows up on the scale, or do your pants fit immediately better that day? No. Do it for 5 or 6 weeks, a couple months, all of a sudden your pants are falling off you, right? Pretty cool. Not the pants falling off part, but losing weight is good, okay? There you go. And then think about comorbidities. Like imagine, I wish I brought this book out here. I was going to bring it out for the class tonight. There's a huge book that talks about what happens, basically all the papers that were published on chiropractic in the first 100 years of our profession. And one thing we have learned is that if you have comorbidities, now that's not usually the case of young people, but let's say we have a patient who's coming in the first time that we've ever seen a chiropractor is in their 70s. Can you imagine what has happened to that body in that period of time? 3 or 4 auto accidents, slips and falls on the ice, poor postural habits, degeneration in the spine. Basically, every one of those ones that they have, you could add an additional 12 visits to their care plan. So this person may be lucky to get their spine corrected in a year and a half, right? That's substantial. I had one person that actually literally took about that long because in her short life, and she was like in her early 40s when we saw her, she'd been rear-ended 4 times in significant auto injuries and had just a ramrod straight neck with daily migraine headaches. I mean, it was just a walking hot mess of inflammation, for sure. And then, so we do traction for periods of time, like 10 to 20 minutes, because that's what it takes for a ligament to change. A minimum of 10 minutes, and 20 is a kind of separate thing to do. So there's a time, guys, and what we say is we are what we repeatedly do. That's the next part is frequency. Aristotle said, what you do repeatedly is what you become. Excellence, therefore, is not an act, it's actually a habit. Okay? So some people think that I'm just excellent because I was born that way. Okay? You watch anybody that you respect who's either a great musician, a great athlete, people pay lots of money to go see them. They were born with a certain amount of talent, but did they have to develop that? Yeah, nobody's born Eddie Van Halen, right? You have to get up there and practice many, many hours. So, good endeavors. How many times does an expert have to do something and to get better? Okay? They definitely will practice every day. This is the part of those 10,000 hours. There's something called spaced repetition. Let's say that you want to become an excellent guitarist. You know it's going to take about 10 years, but you save up until the last year. You do nothing for the first 9 and then try to cram those 10,000 hours in the last year. Does that work very well? No. It's that slow, steady plodding over time that makes you better, right? Just when you first started going back to the gym, how was it? Did you immediately see like getting toned and so forth?
Not at all.
No, you're sore. You're like, why am I doing this, right?
Yeah.
Getting out of bed next day is like, oh my gosh, what a burn. But then you're like, hey, guess what? I'm feeling better in the shirts now. Actually, things are starting to losing weight. It's fantastic, right? That frequency of repetition. We actually do our training every day. Like I said, before our shifts, we actually huddle together and we talk about whatever a person actually needs that day coming into our office. Now, Healing time. What if you trained at the gym, Justin? What if you went to the gym once a month? Could you expect your fitness goals to be met once a month? Probably not, right? You might be able to go to the gym once a week to maintain, but not once a month, right? But if you go to that gym 5 or 6 days a week, what happens over time?
Start seeing the strength gains.
Absolutely. Any trainer of their is going to ask their client to come in a minimum of 3 to 5 times a week to get their fitness goals met. It's no different in chiropractic. There has to be time for recovery. You actually get stronger, not when you're lifting, but when you're recovering, right? Because your muscles come back stronger. So in chiropractic, the same way, what the ACA guidelines say is that the minimum average care of a person that was seen for any type of condition was 26 visits. However, for postural rehab, the 300 articles we have now, there's 220 plus, but there's definitely way more than that. All but 2 of them say patients need to be seen to change your spine between 3 and 4 times a week. So guess what? That's what we recommend at a minimum 3 times a week. I would not do it, guys, if I hadn't done it myself, and if I hadn't done it for my family and my friends too. I'm never going to short sell you what you need to be done. If I told you once a week or once a month to change your spine, no. We can use that to preserve your spine. That's the great news. Once you get to the point where you're at, my gosh, guys, we might be seeing you very infrequently. But to get to that point is where the real hard work is being done. Every adjustment is like one brick in your health protection wall. We're adding one brick to the other. So to make that thing grow and become a fortress that helps you protect against illnesses, we have to do things and stem the tide and flood of the different stressors that come your way. Even wellness care has been studied at 1 time a week, every 2 weeks and once a month, and they showed the benefits for those things. Here's what they said. If a person is seen on once a month basis and you're doing your part at home by doing your exercise and traction we give you, in a year's time, if I took a re-x-ray of all the things we did before in a year's time, you should see literally no change or worsening back to where you started. And in some cases, it might even be a little bit better, but you at least will preserve those things. And then if we gave you questionnaires about your pain levels and also your quality of life, you would actually be the same or better than you were a year ago too. That's pretty darn cool, isn't it? Just an investment of 12 visits over the course of a year. Now, what's nice is if you are seen every 2 weeks, there's an additional benefit that tends to help you preserve the joints a little bit better. What they've shown is that when a joint becomes subluxated and doesn't move as well, essentially your joints start to die in their own excrement, is what they say it is, because they don't have a blood supply. So they can get a little bit inflamed in there. By getting adjusted and corrected, that tends to go away. And myself, I get checked out once a week. The additional benefit of this is that you actually help stop tissue from just micro traumas of living, even heal a bit better. So whatever you choose to do, but I can make a case for wellness care at any one of those frequencies. What I would say is that coming in only when you hurt is not wellness care. That's going back into a sickness model. Okay, does that make sense? All right. And then intensity, guys. This is a big one here too. Oh yes, I should talk about this on the frequency part. We actually have you come to workshops 1 time a month for the first year or first phase of your care because it's so important you learn how to think about your care differently, right? I just think if everybody understood what you're going to understand after I do this class night, if everybody knew what I was talking about and was actually doing that stuff, this world would be completely different. But we've just been brainwashed by multiple drug ads and kind of a world that focuses only on symptoms. That's what it comes down to. All right. Also, you'll notice that we give you home care instruction to work on 4 times a week. So if you're here 3 days a week, there'll be something you do at home the 4 days you're not here to help us in the process. And Andrews, you just got yours, right? And Justin, you'll be getting yours very soon. So please take that very seriously. Do those things we ask you to do because you're helping us in the process. You'll get to your ultimate goal as fast as possible. And you do something positive for your spine every day because I guarantee you the things that we do at tablets and in school absolutely do work against us, getting a correction going there for you. The last thing I'll cover, guys, real quickly is intensity. There's this old phrase, which I love, which says, the harder I work, it seems to be, I get luckier I get, right? If I work hard, I seem to get luckier. What does that mean? Yeah, you actually have the opportunity to make yourself better the more times you do something, right? It's not a guarantee, but it does improve the odds. The most important things in life, guys, that we do, you do not be the person that mails it in. Did you guys, you have done organized sports, right? How about you, Justin? You ever played any organized sports?
When I was really young.
Yeah, okay. So hey, did you know the feeling when you, either yourself or people that you observed, when they came to practice and did what we call mailing it in, where they just kind of showed up and kind of were going through the motions, was that necessarily inspiring or were they much better after that practice? No. There's a different way to show up to practice, which is what's called having your game face on. What does that mean? When a coach says there you go. When a coach says somebody says game face, what does that mean? Like, I'm all in. All distractions are away. Coach, what do you need me to do? I will do it as best I can, as hard as I can, for as long as I can, until you say stop. That's a totally different mentality. So when you come to our office, guys, I want you to have fun. I definitely do. We want to help you reach your goals and have fun doing it. So what I say is, as soon as you swipe that into our office, and you enter there too, have fun, but have a game face on, which means don't waste any time. If the tables are full, please come exercise right away once you know them. If you still have a little bit of time to do traction, if your name gets called to the table right away, go get adjusted. and just keep moving and ask for help if you need it. Okay, we want to make sure we respect your time. We want to have you get healthy, but I just think we can make it in a reasonable amount of time on a given day basis. Number 3, healing time. Those who show up and give their best effort at both workshops and for their care get the best results. We could actually, I bet if I graph this, I could show it to you. But if I could show you that people actually got to all their workshops in their first year, you would see they actually had the most kept appointments and actually the quickest transition to wellness care. Those who miss the learning opportunities and start missing appointments, guess what? They just don't do as well. Is that a surprise to you? Okay. There's actually the thing that we have said is that when people stop making their health a priority, their feet show what their heart has already told them, right? Which is that they stop going where their heart says don't go anymore, or don't go as often, or suddenly start finding reasons to not do something healthy at home. I've heard probably about every excuse in the book about people say I can't do my home care, my exercise and traction, and most of them, well, they can walk, but they're pretty lame, as they would say, okay? So, yes, and so one thing we do is that we want people who don't show or don't strive, don't do as well. You have to know your why. One thing we're going to ask you early on in your care is, if I could give you a magic wand with your health, what would you want to do? Like, what would you want to be able to do? And that's your why, right? And once you reach that goal, I'm going to ask you for a new one. Because many people have come in and said, I'd just be happy if I could get out of a chair and not be stiff. That's a pretty amazing when people get to that point, right? But once they get that, they get out of the chair. What's the next thing that you'd like to do with your grandkids, with your spouse, whatever it is? Always have the next goal in mind. There's never an end to the road to wellness, but there are milestones you will show along the way. And that's really amazing when you see people like, there's one couple that we care for who is now in their mid-60s who are considering going skydiving with their daughter. That's pretty cool. Most parents have given that up a long time ago, right? So there you go. And chiropractic is, we actually do a report card every 12 visits to measure your effort. So when we do a progress check, sometime within the next 1 or 2 visits, you're going to have me sit down. I'm going to show you, here's how the scores go for your participation, basically your game face for these criterion. And then there's going to be 4 things we'll look at: your posture and palpation, any x-rays that we've taken, your orthopedic and neurological checks, and lastly, how you're feeling. Those things will they will show how hard you've worked on the first 6, for sure. Okay? If there's a low input on the one end, it's going to be low in the world just kind of works that way, right? You get out of it what you put into it. So, yes. And the one thing that I have told people is this, is that you want to approach it like a drowning man approaches his next breath. When a person wants their next breath like that, because they've been held underwater for maybe 30 seconds, that's going to require a certain amount of effort, and that person is desperate to get it done. I want you to be at that level of working towards your health. It's hard to do that long term, especially when you start to feel better, right? You have that kind of toothache, or sometimes you just say, I'll do whatever I can to get rid of this. All life stops. You'll do whatever you need to do. Once the pain's gone, sometimes we start to get to brush and floss again, don't we? Right? So keep that mentality of being urgent about it too. Here's the cool thing, guys. When people do this intensity in this program the way we described it here, one benefit of getting your neck curve back is this. Who thinks it'd be a nice thing to be able to think more clearly and actually be able to have your brain age more gracefully, so you know who your family is when you're 80? Would that be nice? No, you don't want to do that? So Andrews wants to be, what is it, be fat and sassy and not know who people are when you're older? Is that what you want? No. No, the thing is that my friend actually has shown that when you get your neck curve back, there's literally an improvement of blood flow to your brain that will go up between 25 and as much as 200%. That means your brain is going to age very gracefully. Like my wish for everybody would be that you would not be in a nursing home where you don't know who your family and friends are, and people are actually coming by to feed you, get you out of the chair to go to the bathroom, and things like that. I want to see you preserve your brain. Also, my friend Dr. Dee Harrison, the most published chiropractor in the world, has actually shown that once you get your spine back in its proper position, if you measure how fast your brain gets messages to your body, and then from your body back to your brain, it will speed up between 20 and 25% in a year's time, because it takes time to heal. Isn't that cool? What does it mean for you? What it means is they've actually been able to study these things where people actually have been like, not falling a good thing? Yeah. They've shown that actually it means improved balance. When they put people on things and they actually provoke them to try to make them fall, the person who has their head back over their shoulders falls way less than the person whose head is stuck out here. Okay? Tracking things. If you go through the intersection and a car comes flying at you, is it a good thing to be able to turn the car and get around it and still be able to know which way you're going? Is that a good thing? Yeah. That's actually what happens. They show that reaction time improves. Your ability to do vertical leap in sports, to actually jump. If you like to play pickleball, tennis, whatever, basketball. Also, another one is, agility drills. So like when you're, say, stepping off of a curb, or if you're going to be playing a sport and dancing around like this, you will get where you want to go probably between a second and 2 seconds faster than you would without having your head over your sticking out in front of you like that. Super cool, right? So these are things you can look forward to. And just an improved quality of life, they've actually shown that people under regular chiropractic care, when they look at Medicare patients, the person who's being seen about once a month, once they've got their spines corrected, can anticipate they will spend about 60 or 70% less on healthcare costs. Just cut them right by way by 2/3. Number two, you will take half the medication that your friends who aren't under care will be taking. And lastly, they will actually see all doctors half as much in their life too, because they're under regular care, right? And when those people were asked, what role do you think that your wellness chiropractic care has played in why you're such a healthy person? 96% of them said, it's one of the major things that actually keeps me so healthy. So listen to the people who have already succeeded and follow in their footsteps. Anders, you've got a great example in your mom. Holly and Dave, fantastic examples to follow, guys. They're really good people who've done the right thing and they are staying healthy, okay? So my final point is this, guys. You know the ingredients now and how important that they are. You can also now assess how well you're doing in response to those things with regards to time, frequency, intensity. Some people come to this class and say, Doc, you know what? I realized I was taking the short-term view. I just simply want to come in and get care until I was out of pain and I was done. You know what? I actually have changed my mind. I do want to rebuild my spine and be healthier. Number two, frequency. Doc, you know what? This is probably the hardest time of the year to keep your frequency up. What's coming up here? What started about October 31st and goes till the Super Bowl? Holidays, right? Yes. I mean, everybody's bringing food to stuff, right? It's usually not the healthiest stuff. And all these gatherings that sometimes throw us off, even travel, right? So we're going to try to help you stay on track that way as best we can. And the intensity too. Sometimes people say that the planning for the holidays and all the shopping and wrapping and the craziness of the season has superseded their interest in getting healthy for a little while. And it's like, well, you can do both, right? You can still have a great time getting ready for the holidays, but make sure you have time for you. Block that time out for yourself and make sure you never get rid of that. And then lastly, guys, where are you doing well? Celebrate those things. Some people have said, Doc, I did all my exercise and traction faithfully for the past month. They bring the little sheet and show us, and it's like, hey, this is a perfect report card. Nice job. Where you're not doing so well, okay, ask for help. Guys, sometimes, like we just had somebody who actually is doing a very intensive program with us where they are coming in twice a day. They'd come to us from a long ways out in the West. And this person, around all the traffic patterns and so forth from the people that she's staying with, was having a hard time figuring out how will I get there twice a day. We sit down and looked at the schedule and we said, does this work for you? Well, not so well. Does this work for you? Better. Does this work for you? That's the best. We found a solution, guys. For every person who wants a serious solution, who seriously wants that, there's usually a solution that you can find that will work for all of us, okay? So can you see now that these are things you will give your life to you? If you find a person who's doing none of those things, Doc, I'm committing no time, no frequency, and no intensity to my health, do they have a care plan? Yeah, it's just not a very good care plan, right? So they're caring for themselves. They're caring for themselves poorly. The person who chooses wisely, and I would say in congruence with good health principles, is the person who actually will commit those things to doing the good things there too. So if you have those things, guys, great. Whatever you can do to shore up, let us help you in that. And lastly, the one thing I would ask you to do is this. Who do you think you might know that does not know these things but should, right? We really like caring for our patients. They tend to be people, we tend to attract people who actually have very high aspirations in life. They do good things with their lives. They have very noble goals. I've never heard anybody who actually wants to get their good health back to be a less effective worker. They want to be better, a better parent, whatever they want to do. And so the thing is that many people have put chiropractic in a kind of a box which says, if I knew a person actually had neck pain, back pain, or headaches, I would talk to them about that. Did we mention back pain or neck pain once during this talk? Not once. We're talking all about health and wellness. This is actually, you're changing your life. Do we see people with neck pain, back pain, and headaches? Sure. But that's not what chiropractic is around for. Chiropractic is about helping maximize your nervous system's function and also your lifestyle choices. And we teach all of those things in our office. They're here for free and there are classes. Take advantage of all those things, okay? So we will have something at the beginning of the year. We will actually have a chance for people to come in and be checked out in a very nice way. In fact, Anders, I think you took advantage of that. Or somebody that we did, Justin, that's right, you came in as well as that. Somebody said, hey, Justin, go get checked out, right? But at any time, we actually are more than happy to screen people. If you have a classmate or somebody that you work with who says, man, I'm just not reaching my health standards here. I'm not up to the thing I'm used to experiencing as far as my quality of health goes. Or you could actually see in their posture, based on what you know now, that person's really struggling. Just mention to them and say, Dr. Lynn is happy to screen you at no charge. Have them come in. I'll look at their posture. I'll palpate their spines. There's absolutely no commitment to getting adjusted. I just want them to know what's going on. If they do learn something and say, I'd like to look into that further, then we can talk about that. But I think everybody deserves to at least be screened. If you think about this in light of blood pressure, do you guys know that blood pressure is pretty important? Okay, you just learned about this week in the class, right? The health class. What would a person who has blood pressure at 200 over 150 be concerned about?
High blood pressure.
Yeah, what would that lead to? If you have uncontrolled high blood pressure, what does it tend to lead to? Anders? One of two things gives out.
Right.
Yep, sometimes kidneys or
Right.
stroke, right? That's not good to have those things shutting down, right? So, in the same way, there are lots of people in blood pressure people have high blood pressure problems. It's often silent when it starts. There's usually no warning signs whatsoever. When those big things hit, like a stroke or a heart attack, that's a life-altering thing, right? In the same way, why wouldn't we try to fix the roof when it's not raining? Help find a person who actually has problems but doesn't have the full-on crisis yet, and get fixing it then instead of walking through my door like this, dragging their leg, saying, "I can't do anything, doc. Please help me." Right? That's just a far worse place to be at. So, time, frequency, and intensity, guys. You can't get around it. These are things that will make you better anything in life, and specifically a chiropractic patient too. And with that being said, guys, I am done. Thanks for being here. Go forth and change the world. Okay? All right. Good. You're out of here. And Mr. Anders, it is 6:58. How do we do?